Welcome to Legally Everywhere, where we are what?
Because, like, even though the Soviet Union collapsed, you still see, like, the legacy of certain things, right? Like, many geopolitical structures to this day still come from, like, the Cold War. Like, certain structural, strategic types of movements still come from things that happened, like, back then. Like, NATO alliances, Eastern Europe security dynamics, Russian military strategy, power competitions between major states. Like, experts trained in Cold War strategic thinking often understand the historical logic behind, like, current tensions, because they have a brain that's structured to see certain movements, right? Because they've had exposure to it, so they can see it a little bit easier. It's easier to recognize a pattern when you've seen it before, is it not? Not to say that you couldn't understand it, hey, this is a pattern over time, but it's certainly much easier to recognize certain patterns when you have observed it before. Condoleezza Rice's career began with, like, studying Soviet military strategy and advising the White House during the collapse of the Soviet Union, right? And that means her expertise is rooted in understanding, right, how major power systems shift during periods of global tension. How major power systems shift during periods of global tension. So this actually is an area where she is very, very strong, right? So this gives us more insight into why is she being called in? Why is she being called in now? Right? So Condoleezza Rice built her career studying Soviet military strategy and even served in the White House, right? And now the reason that her background still matters is because of the geopolitical system that came out of the Cold War, right? So, like, Russia in particular inherited some of the strategy framework that the Soviet Union once held. And modern policy discussions still identify Russia as a major geopolitical concern. But we see that it identified Russia as what? A major geopolitical concern. So we're talking about decades and decades of expertise studying the Russian and the Soviet strategy. It makes so much sense why it would be her background would be relevant now, right? And it becomes even more interesting when you look at the relationship between Russia and Iran now, because they're saying online that Russia is now backing Iran and supporting them. So if that is the case, who better to call than her?